Thank you very much for invitation and possibility to introduce the Finnish career education system. And my name is Raimo and I come from the Finnish Institute for Educational Research, University of Jyväskylä. And we were planning to have this presentation jointly with my colleague Jaana Kettunen, but she was not able to join today. So I will introduce our joint sort of materials just by myself. So the topic is practical work experience period as a student entitlement in Finland. And yesterday, at the end of the plenary session, Anthony was addressing 14 questions, which should be how to promote career readiness within educational system. And in terms of the Finnish system, we have solutions for these questions, to most of the questions, in fact. So what I'll do now, I will introduce how career education is integrated in the curriculum and how this cooperation with employers is like a pedagogical process that has been in place already a few decades. And to provide you first the context. In Finland, we have let's say, almost 100% of the school is public. We have public education. And since January, we have a compulsory education until the students are 18 years old. Previously, it was 9-year comprehensive education, but the compulsory education was extended in January. And this had implications also for guidance or career education, because it was partly already integrated into the grades 1 to 9, and then from 10 to 12, both in general education and vocational education and training. But at the moment, it's like a 12-year continuum. And what I will now focus is this practical work experience that takes place mainly on grade 8 and 9. So the students are 14 to 16 years old students. And to start about the career education, according to our legislation, career education and guidance is a student entitlement, or I would say already almost a subjective right to have access to guidance during all the school days throughout the year. And the Basic Education Act states that every pupil is entitled to adequate career guidance services. And as I mentioned, it's a compulsory element in the curriculum. In grade 1 to 6 is integrated. So all the classroom teachers who have the main responsibility of the education, they also take care of the career education. We have general goals like communication skills, but first introductory about different occupations or what parents are doing. But basically, it's sort of learning to have, let's say, one's own schedule and identify your learning type and skills and so on. But in grades 7 to 9, when students are at the age 13 to 16, we have altogether 76 hours timetabled classroom activities with a similar status like a school subject, like maths or English or history. So students have to attend to these career education classroom activities. And on top of this, there is an entitlement for individual guidance and group counselings in relation to career issues or personal development. And on top of that, there is this 2-week compulsory period practical work experience in real working environment. And this is during the school day. So the 100% of the student should have access to these activities. So Dieter Hughes was referring to equity and equal opportunity. So basically, this system allowed all the students an opportunity to have this work experience. And what was the change in January when Finland extended the compulsory education to 12 years? This implied that there was a stronger emphasis on the transition from 9th grade to upper secondary level education. Now this is a continuum, and students are entitled to apply to upper secondary level education, either general education or in VET or in a customized personal learning program. And they have to apply. And then the school authorities have to follow up that the student really apply. So this means that this is a sort of a requirement, a responsibility, both for the individual students and the school authorities. And then in most of the cases at the moment, this is a specific issue for career practitioners to sort of follow up the students, make the application, and start also the studies on upper secondary level education. And if students, we identify that students might have difficulties or risks in attending to upper secondary level education, and if this is screened already during the 8th grade, students are entitled for intensive career education and guidance. So it's a strong student entitlement. And after the students are applying to upper secondary level education, so the upper secondary level education providers, they have to then sort of follow up the students. They are enrolled, they start the program, and they complete the program as well. So this means that guidance is a very strong safety net throughout the education. Then what is the content of the career education? The national agency draws the core curriculum. The latest one was 2016, which sets key learning objectives for learning within comprehensive education, including career education. And similar guidelines are now in place also in upper secondary level education. But what I'm talking now is mainly on grades 7 to 9. So the core curriculum, I go into general transversal objectives in the forthcoming slides, but the national agency sets the guidelines, but local institutions are required to have an institutional plan or curriculum, which includes the overall objectives of guidance and also the cooperation within the local labor market and enterprises and the business community and other stakeholders. So this is a normative task or required task that they should have this type of plan in place throughout the country. And in addition to this career education content, all the other school subjects have to identify how do they contribute to the overall goals of guidance. So for example, the math teachers have to be able to identify where math is required in the labor market, how maths can be used in your future careers, and so on. And the career readiness, or we call it career management skills, it's an explicit transversal learning objective, a competence area which can be learned throughout the education system. So the comprehensive education builds the building blocks, and then it's sort of deepened in upper secondary level education and also during the higher education. So we think we sort of acknowledge it as an explicit competence area. This is a diagram identifying briefly how career education is connected to the transversal competencies in the comprehensive education. So they are learning to learn cultural competencies, self-management, resilience, multiliteracy, digital competencies, working life competencies and entrepreneurial skills, and also engagement in the society. And then this is sort of broken down into more detailed objectives for career education. And then there's this engagement in this career process, learning to learn, lifelong learning, self-awareness. How do I set my goals and aspirations? A strong focus on the working life and how you use labor market information, anticipation data when you are thinking of your further options. And then also the cultural awareness and thinking labor market from international perspectives. So these are the contents during the 76 hours classroom activities, plus with all the other school subjects. And how is it implemented in practice? The guidance services and guidance career education is provided and coordinated by full-time trained career teachers, or we call them school counselors. And their qualifications are legally defined. They must have either a master's degree in career guidance and counseling or a 60 ECTS postgraduate diploma. And at the moment, almost, let's say 97% of the practitioners have this qualification, legally defined qualifications. And then the average ratio of school one counselor, and it's about 200, 250 students per one school council at the moment. And they are in charge of this timetabled career education, school group activities, and individual guidance. And they are also the intermediary between the local companies. And they cooperate with other teachers as well, who then have sort of a screen and follow up and have the early intervention if necessary. And I mentioned that this is has the similar status like other school subjects, but it's not graded through summative evaluation. It's graded with formative evaluation, and students are expected to identify how they are acquiring these career management skills. And then now the cooperation with the employers. We call it, acronym is TET in Finnish. It's in practical introduction to working life. And this is very integral part of the pedagogic, and it's a compulsory element. And the periods are organized as a basis on the student interest and personal aspirations. On 7th grade, it might take place one day in your workplace of your parents or guardians or within school settings. But on grades 8 and 9, there are allocated 1 week at time in real working lives. And the students, they themselves have to apply the job like they would be looking for a real job. So they are learning also these job searching skills, and also how to make a job application and how to prepare a job interview. And the local authorities and the companies, then they provide information on those placements which are available. And I introduce a tool how this can be done online. But students are informed about the job placements which are available, and they are encouraged to contact directly to the jobs. And prior to the schedule, normally one class goes at the one time. So they have like preparatory work in advance. What are their assignments? How they sort of get prepared these activities, and also what are the assignments during the period. And during the period, they obtain knowledge about working life, specific characteristics of the field, and also the future perspectives of this job. And then they reflect whether it's after the period when they are reporting, they are reflecting whether this sort of is strengthening their choices or narrowing their options or excluding some of their previous thoughts. And I introduce a short pedagogical model how this can be done, an example. So these are the key questions of the pedagogical process when students are preparing for this placement. So we start from student is on the left, so it's from students' perspective. When they think of the business or the branch, they have to sort of examine with the employers what is the primary business line of the company. So what is the field? What are their products and so on? And then what is the sort of objective? What materials are in use, and what are kind of encounters exist? So what is the practical sort of work within the company? And then after that, the next question is that then we come to the staff members. What type of expertise is needed in the company? What qualifications are needed? What competencies are needed? And in a way that what is the set of mind, not concrete toolbox, but also the potential theories or sort of transversal competencies and so on, what are needed. Then the next question is that what is the community and what is the context? Whether there are any other sort of companies in the field, and what are the future employment perspectives, and what is the anticipation data in this field. So they are also thinking of not only the actual sort of practice, but then what is the future, and then also what kind of partnerships exist. So if the companies is working in partnerships, private microphone open. Okay. So they are sort of what type of partnerships is needed or networks are needed, and then finally also what type of legislation is defining this job. So what is the norm? So in a way, they are thinking of the profession as such, but also the system. So this is combining the activities and a systemic approach within the field. And then how this is linked to personal goals. Then the students are asked to reflect what were my original goals for this period, how did it affect my interest, and could I see myself getting training to this field or obtaining my future, or whether my skills are relevant to this need. So the whole cooperation is a strong pedagogical process that lasts 2 years, actually. So it's not only one-off visits. So the idea of the integration of career education, it's a strong pedagogical process, not only the choice. And then a couple of years ago, we were asking student feedback whether they had learned. This was the national study on the National Finnish Education Evaluation Center. There were 13,000 students responding to this, and they said that they had an opportunity to familiarize with different jobs and working life. So almost 2/3 were satisfied. And then also almost 80% said that they gained more information about the working life, and it was useful when I made choices and studies after basic education. This percentage might be low because 50% of the age cohort makes a choice between VET and general education. So half of it choose VET, half go to general upper secondary general education to have 3 more years to sort of explore their future interest in higher education. Then this, how this cooperation can be organized. 20 years ago, with the early years of the internet, in Central Finland, my colleague Jaana was a project coordinator on this, or project manager in this project. The problem was that employers, they got upset of random calls when students were asking, can I join, can I come to your business, and so on. So they wanted some coordination. Parents were not unsure whether there's young children were exploited in the companies, how it was connected to this career education, and whether there are some insurance and legal issues connected to this. So they needed some information. And then students also wanted to have information what jobs were available. And then the practitioners needed material, how to introduce the system to employers, parents, other teachers, and so on. So this project collect the needs of the different stakeholders in this process and compile them in a need-based website where the companies had the opportunity to have a template that these jobs are available. This is how we want to be contacted. This is the time of the year when we are available. And these are the jobs, these are the special requirements. And when they provided this information, then what the platform for them was that these are the contracts which you can make with the students. This is the material, how you train your employees to sort of supervise these young students when they are in practice. So it was also pedagogical information to employers. For parents, it was provided information, what are the legal requirements, the cost, insurances, and how is this connected to further education and further studies, and what is career education, what is the role of this period in this pedagogical process on career education within schools. Then the students they were able to choose the branch which they were interested. If they were interested in construction, they took construction, and then they could see the jobs or placements which were available in that area, and then the contact persons, and also they had some materials. How do you prepare yourself to job interview? There were short video clips they could download on their mobile phones and what's on the bus when they were going to a job interview and so on. So this was the key material for the students, but also the templates for assignments. And for the study counselors or career teachers, there was this hints, how do you sort of integrate the pedagogical process into the system. There were templates for contracts with schools and companies, pedagogical materials, PR material for parents and companies, and also the templates for assignments. So this website it's still in practice, and it's sort of the schools also manage, if they in a bigger city there are more than one schools, they could use this platform to coordinate which schools goes in November, which schools goes in December, and so on. So it was the pedagogical support and management tool.
Raimo, we're coming up to about 20 minutes now.
Yeah, so I'm just completing. So as I said that we do have these guidelines, but then we have these local adaptations, and that is the challenge that we conducted study that we found out that there are some differences in the school, but the government has taken this into their policies, and we have a new national strategy that sort of includes the definition of a national framework for the career management skills competencies, and this might be one element that strengthens the practitioner training and also the student entitlement, and this is information also for the companies. But I think this was the key issue, so strongly highlighting it's a quite equal process for the whole age cohort, a cost-effective way to promote this cooperation. And the Finnish employers, they are supporting it strongly, and next presentation will focus on that. Thank you.